Hello, Ralph.
Hi, Lara.
Welcome to Mindful Leaders, Inherited Legacies. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you.
So these conversations are mainly about life learnings. They're about taking an introspective look, not only about leadership, but about how we as individuals carry with us our family histories. I actually like to meet with people who I believe have fascinating stories, who are inspirational, and you happen to be one of those people. So I'm going to start off with a few words that are important to me, important to my research and my work. And I'd like for you to tell me what they mean for you, genuinely what they mean for you, what they've meant for you, and just your simple thoughts. So tell me what leadership means for you.
Well, it's a combination of many things together. But if I go back when I was a child and I was growing and getting acquainted with so many aspects of life and how I grew up during the Civil War back at my birthplace in Lebanon, and how my parents were taking care of the family, and then graduating from school still during the Civil War and going to the university still during the Civil War. I mean, that mixture of experiences, feelings, molded a kind of a set of principles, if I could say, which gave birth to a certain leadership character. And I started feeling that during the last year at the university when I was doing my second major in business management. And, what I've discovered is leadership is not only about being a person that needs to lead. It's about a person that needs to be a human being, first of all. A human being that takes into consideration a mixture of experiences in life, because a leader should know, first of all, shouldn't be afraid, should be an outgoing person, should be an example of enthusiasm, to be able to transfer that to the followers or to the teams that are working with the leader. But at the same time, the leader should be human from a fairness point of view. No matter what, no matter the decisions needed during the course of doing business or doing politics or doing whatever the leader is doing, should never forget that part of the human values, the human aspects, and that person should always remember that one day you were not a leader yet, but you were experiencing something or few things in life, and other people helped you reach somewhere in life. And that's why the human part should always be there. The human values should always be there. I very much value the respect part of the human relations. But in general, or to be more specific, if we go to leadership, the leader should be strong, should be tough. When it comes to making decisions, should be very aware when calculating risks, when calculating losses versus returns in favor of the if I could say, the pack, the company, the country, the nation, you name it.
So Ralph, this aspect of toughness, it concerns me. Does that mean that leaders cannot be vulnerable?
No, they are vulnerable. What I meant by toughness is you shouldn't be tough on people. You should be tough under certain circumstances, depending on the situation, to be able to stand off or to stand up to any challenge that comes away. But it doesn't mean that if I'm a tough person, then I'm tough on my own people. No, it doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, by the way, a leader should be an office clerk with the office clerk, should be a driver with the driver, should be a minister with the minister, should be a president with the president, and so on and so forth, and should be a baby with the baby, and should be an adult with the adult. It doesn't mean if I'm a leader, I should be tough, I can scold anyone I wish, and that's very wrong.
Understood. I had a few other words, but you inspired me with what you said. You mentioned values, which is actually a very important part of leadership. I actually tend to think that anybody can be a leader. It's not necessarily the function or the role, but it's anybody that has that opportunity to be able to bring meaning into their life. I think that we are born in this world to offer something for ourselves, something for others, to create a world that's more meaningful. What is that offer that you have, that you feel, that you want to bring to this world?
I think I've done my share or my part with respect to what I could offer to this world. And at the same time, with respect to my family, with respect to my parents, and specifically my dad, and with respect to the company I work for, and with respect to the nation that I'm part of. I've tried to do my best. I've tried to lead and to demonstrate by example. I've tried to pass this example to many generations by meeting with different types of generations, transferring the know-how, the experience, giving the necessary advices, the necessary counsels, if I could say. And at the same time, trying also to explain and to teach my children, not only by example, but by them watching me what I'm doing. Because sometimes you can explain and you can talk and it will never stick inside. But when they see you in action, when they see you interacting, when they see you handling certain matters, that becomes a very good lesson for them to remember what I used to say in the past and to match it. Is he doing the same thing as he used to tell us? And I mean, and that helps them in a way to walk through life, yes. Maybe I can still do, maybe I can still contribute with things to a better life in our homeland. I don't know. But I consider I have done what I've dreamt about since I was a teenager. And I had this opportunity when I first came to this part of the world, and I've never wasted this opportunity. On the contrary, I've used it to the maximum I can to benefit the country, the people, the identity of which I'm a part of.
Right, right. I want to go to your childhood. You have a very interesting childhood, but you've had a very difficult or challenging upbringing. Your family wasn't very well off financially, and your father had to work hard, and he struggled quite a bit to ensure that the family needs were met. You know, you even accompanied him during his work when you were little. You've seen him in his good days, you've seen him struggle, and you've felt at a very young age the stress and the anxieties that he had. Could you tell me, ages 8, 10, or 13, what is the most pivotal moment or memory that you have of your father who recently passed away?
There are many memories, okay? I cannot narrow it down to one memory because I consider few things he said to me in life. I still remember them and I still apply them. And maybe I've inherited his some traits from his characters. I used to see him being very cool, very calm, not cold-hearted. He was a warm-hearted, but he never showed that to the external world.
He never showed emotion?
No, he never showed emotion, and I've managed to experience this and to believe in this and to like this. And actually that's one of the things that a leader, in my opinion, should be able to have. I mean, if you have emotions, you should control your emotions, you should keep them inside, you shouldn't let them out to the external world, because at a certain point they could prove devastating. And I mean, this is the calmness we're talking about. So when I used to accompany him on different trips, when he was jobless but trying to sell few items by taking from friends or relatives. And I used to see how difficult the situations were when he was being rejected. I mean, people not wanting to buy anything from those items. And to him, it was a challenge to return back home with some income to give it to mom, so mom could take care of the family things. And he never used to show whether he's happy or sad.
Then how did you know that he was sad?
When he was quiet, when we were driving, I mean, he was driving the car and returning back home, he never said a word. So when he's quiet and he's not expressing, it means he's in thoughts, and it means something is bothering him. But when he used to sell a few items, on our way back home, he used to ask me questions. Would you like to listen to this Armenian music? I mean, he used to have some cassettes. Yeah.
That means that, you know, a child, whether hears stories or conversations from their parents or from their family members, it's not necessarily the words that also can pierce through a child's heart. It's also what is unsaid, you know, the feelings and the emotion. That's why when you say emotions are not necessarily good, they could be negative, I tend to think emotions are actually really good because it brings the human side of the individual. Depends on how, the context obviously, which is what I'm trying to get at. But you felt that from your father. And I'm curious to know, given that it's from your father's side that you are Armenian, your father's side, Mardiros, you are Armenian because his mother also was not Armenian, which is really interesting. The story of Mardiros, your grandfather, your father's father, whose family is originally from Shushi.
Yeah,
Sirun Adalyan, the mother.
The mother, yes. The Adalyans, yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
So the Adalyans, your great-grandmother, originally from Shushi.
Great-great-grandmother.
Great-great-grandmother, originally from Shushi.
Her ancestors originally are from Shushi.
But in the 1700s, they moved to Adana. And they witness, and they're survivors of the Adana massacres in 1905. They leave Adana. Your grandfather is still very young at this time, maybe 6 or 8. They move to Aleppo, and Mardiros, your grandfather's parents, after they pass away, he and his siblings move back to Adana and witness a second genocide, and that's the 1915 genocide. So here's this person, now at the age of 18, witnessing the second trauma, huge trauma in his life, and now orphaned because his parents are no longer alive. They flee to orphanages in Aleppo. Tell me about Mardiros. Was he also a non-talkative person? How did he express any of these experiences to your father or to you when you were young?
I still remember my grandfather. He was a super non-talkative person. And I used to feel that my father used to suffer from that. Because, I mean, my great-grandfather saw a lot, but told almost nothing to his children.
Did not even speak Armenian.
He even, I don't know if it was a psychological thing. I mean, he was understanding every Armenian words when his grandchildren were talking, were around him. I mean, myself, my brothers. And he was replying in Arabic. He never replied in Armenian. He knew perfect Turkish, but of course we did not know Turkish, so the communication was only in Arabic. And I always wondered why he was not talking in Armenian. And I used to say that maybe when time comes and I grow up, because I was at an Armenian school, I was learning everything Armenian, from history to geography to so on and so forth. I was kind of saying maybe one day I can sit and talk with him, but the maybe didn't work. He passed away in 1976. It was December, so...
Yeah, you were still very young.
I was very, very young, yeah.
But could you continue about your father feeling the sadness about his own father not being talkative,
yes,
not speaking about his...
a few times he expressed it in words.
Who did? Your father?
Yeah, my father. When I was trying to ask questions about our past, about the family, And the way he was expressing in resentment that no info was passed from his father to him, for him to be able to learn more, to know more, and to pass it to the next generation, which was us. It was the resentment somehow was a cover up for some pain.
Yeah.
And
some pain that your father felt.
Yes, by not knowing, by wanting to know. And maybe it was a pain that he never learned the language. Because my grandfather, and maybe that was also another reason, and it's a psychological trauma, that he did not send his children, I mean my two aunts and my dad, to an Armenian school. And he married to a local non-Armenian, knowing that the circle of relatives around my grandfather was kind of okay, I mean, and contacts. But he went all the way in a different direction. And that had its impact also on the way my aunts and my dad taught. And my aunts got married to locals, non-Armenians.
Non-Armenians, yeah.
And my dad also got married to a non-Armenian, my mother. And with time, you know, this developed into some sort of a thesis in my mind. And I was kind of, I want to bring things back and put on the right track. And that's why I was kind of deep inside looking for an Armenian girl to get married with. And then, like, if we drifted and then we brought things back and put it on track. So now we're a 100% Armenian family.
So do you feel, I have this quote of William Faulkner in my head. He says, the past is never the past. It's always the present. In a sense that we have the past with us all the time. Do you feel that you carry Sirun Adalyan, Mardiros Sirikyan, your father, their whole, not just the history. When I say past, we talk about facts. I'm talking about history, the whole lineage of the emotions that were carried from your grandfather, maybe not even feeling that he had a meaning in his life anymore after the losses that he saw, and that carried to your father's in his sense of sadness.
Well, actually, you're very right. Because of all that, maybe he felt that there's no meaning in life. Sometimes I used to feel that from his tone when he used to talk about history, the Armenian history, the past through which the family passed, and for him lacking the necessary info. I mean, he was collecting books in Arabic language, and he tried to read history. And some of the books I have, he gave me those books, and he requested me to go through them just to compare them with what I've learned at school about our history. And there was pain in his, resentment. And, you know, when he passed away recently, and I think how he fought, refusing to be treated by the doctors. And I was thinking, could he have done that on purpose because he got fed up? So many times throughout the course of his life, I mean, he passed some signals like that. But then I thought he was a proud parent because he saw his children grow and succeed. And so many times he told me with Mom that we are very proud of you and with what you have done, and by giving a certain place for the family name. So I felt that he was very happy about that. But it seems it was not enough, because deep inside him something was missing, and that, I think it's the link with the past, because he was thirsty for information, and he had no. The main source was not providing him with the necessary information.
Yes. I can sit here and talk with you for hours, because we're not even capturing just the iceberg of your past and your story. So I hope one day we'll be able to continue this. But given that our time is so short, unfortunately, I have this question for you now, about you, more or less. You've witnessed war in Lebanon. growing up. You then obviously move here with your family. I mean, you've had different careers in between until you got here, even being the CEO of Rapport Telecom, then since 2004 also being the CEO of Viva MTS. You've witnessed many things even in this country, especially namely this past 44-day Artsakh war, where you also noticed the staff at Viva MTS whose sons, whose husbands passed away. So you're living all of this over again, the fears, the uncertainties, we all go through this. It just feels like the wounds are not healed, they're never closed. What kind of sense of hope or what kind of message or advice would you give me that feels that, you know, trauma over trauma and layer over layer of emotional burden being carried, even if we're not necessarily on the front lines, but we're collectively living this? What advice would you give me for the
Lara,
future?
you know, that's our history with the Armenians. I mean, we're living a trauma, but our ancestors lived so many traumas over so many centuries and millennia, if I could say. We had a tough history, and I don't think that will change. Maybe it's our destiny as Armenians, I don't know. But what matters is, and what's important, it's unity. We need to think unity, we need to breathe unity, we need to practice unity, we need to come together, we need to consolidate our thoughts, our powers, our potentials, if I could say. It's the solidarity that keeps us strong and helps us overcome so much of difficulties and traumas yet to come, because it's not over. Nothing is over yet, and we have to expect so many challenging turning points in our life as a nation, if I could say that. So unity, and in Armenian, miatsek hayer, that's the only way out. Otherwise, we will continue to suffer, we will continue to disintegrate, we will continue to cry on our past and on our present, and to regret the future, if that's sayable as well. That's why we need to become one. Unity is the solution. It will solve all issues. We need to disregard deficiencies in others. We need to start learning, putting differences aside. And we need to think and care only about one thing, preserving our identity, doing whatever we can together to protect it and to develop the nation more.
Val Fridikyan, it's always such an inspiration talking to you. Thank you so much for this time and this opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Lara.
Thank you, Val.